Bonnie, you're muted.
Thank you. Let me start that all over again. I am Bonnie Murray, and I will be presenting to you about the Meet the Scientist sessions that are part of the Arctic and Earth Science Project that is funded by the NASA SMG Science Activation. And so these Meet the Scientist sessions are brief 90-minute virtual connections, usually done through Zoom or another technology. They allow researchers from NASA to connect with students in Alaska and other remote regions throughout the United States. What are the benefits? Students, teachers, and the community members are able to engage with the NASA scientists to learn more about their research, sharing their own knowledges as well. These are two-way engagements, and that's a critical element of them. They're learning about the NASA missions, and they're learning about NASA data that's collected and how that might be something they want to braid with traditional ecological knowledges as they share with the scientists the issue that they're studying in their own community. And so through these sessions, they're building relationships and helping students to strengthen their own science identity. The SMEs are, of course, sharing their research. They're learning from the communities who are involved in GLOBE. As they engage with the students and teachers, they are listening first, sharing their path to science and discussing research in the community context. They're building relationships, and they are building their cultural awareness and understanding of community needs. There's a lot of preparation that goes into the events. There's SME support. First, we help the SMEs to understand how to effectively engage with the audience and why the research that they will be sharing could be important to the community. We help them understand current pedagogy that would be effective, asking open-ended questions, things like that. And we share tips on effective virtual presentation strategies. In fact, there's a video that I send out to the SMEs, helping them to figure out what should go in their presentation. We encourage the SMEs to share about themselves, and so we give examples of how it's best to do that. For the educators, there are NASA resources shared with them to get the students ready. You're seeing here an example of very young children who are going to be learning about Landsat. And so they did a rubbing activity where you crinkle up tinfoil and then rub paper over it to get an idea of what images look like from space, satellite imagery. There's also learning support. There is a 4-square notes template that is used, and you can see there's a place for vocabulary and questions and facts, details about the SME, just a place to organize your thoughts as you're going through and listening to the speaker and engaging with the speaker. Building on prior knowledge is very important. Again, another pedagogy that we employ. So engagement always begins with questions. The students start with sharing what they're doing in their community and researching what they're researching, how they're using GLOBE, and by asking questions of the researcher. And then throughout the presentation, the students are again invited to share their own experiences and their knowledge about the research that they're collecting. Relevant context is another critical element. So as the SME is sharing their information, they're intentionally connecting the learning to the student's place, and they're ensuring that there's cultural relevance in this. Why is this research that they're sharing relevant for the community that they're speaking to? The evaluation reports from the Arctic and Earth Science Project have shown that the Meet the Scientist activities contributed to increased interest among the educators and youth for investigating climate change in their communities. They were shown to be highly relevant. The students developed personally relevant connections, with the scientists. It provided direct access to the scientists for both the students and the teachers. And these are an ongoing resource because every session is recorded, and frequently the community stays in touch with the researcher that they have connected with. So what's next? We're looking at connecting classes with classes. Think virtual pen pals. That would be an opportunity for students to share their GLOBE experiences and their data and their research topics with their peers. We have done some sessions, especially during the pandemic when the students weren't in classrooms, with teachers. And this allowed them to expand their knowledge on that research topic as they met with that SME ahead of time, and then to prepare for a session with the students as a follow-up. Again, very important in relationship building. That's the big focus throughout these Meet the Scientist sessions. I included a quote here from a teacher, and I've underlined some especially relevant points. They found this to be relevant connections that they were able to make with the scientists. They shared that they appreciated that the scientists shared information about their background. We asked the scientists to share a challenge specifically and how they overcame it. The questions were specific to Alaska, to where they were, and also to their own lives. And the students were able to pull from their knowledge and share examples that related to the information being shared. I've put my contact information here if you have any questions, and I've also put the Arctic and Earth Science website for more information, and of course for those recordings as well. So I'll stop there, and I think I have a few minutes for questions if there are any. All right, hearing none, maybe we can move to the next speaker and keep things going along. I'm not sure if that's what you want to do, Roller, or not, but I'll stop sharing. Oh, thank you. I'm sorry, I'm not watching the chat.
Great stuff, Bonnie.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your comments. Thank you. Great to hear your voice, Teresa. Thank you.
And Roller, should I go ahead and start, or should we wait a couple of minutes?
You can just go right ahead.
Okay, let me share my screen, get my PowerPoints up. Okay, so this lightning talk is by 3 GLOBE partners of my institute, the Institute for Global Environmental Strategies, Los Angeles Public Library, and the University of Toledo. And we're going to talk about bringing diverse audiences to GLOBE through public libraries. So why are we working with public libraries? This is an intentional strategy that the GLOBE Observer team is using, which I'm a part of. And there's several reasons. Some of these include their role in local STEM ecosystems. Public libraries provide experiences across from K to grade for programs for children, for families, for teens and adults. And they connect out of school experiences with in-school experiences. Public libraries are trusted community hubs. There are surveys that show our public libraries are not only the most used local institutions, but they are the most trusted institutions, and they are a public good. They are a community resource for all. As well as public libraries, there's a growing network of public libraries that are engaging their public in science, in STEM, in STEAM, in science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, through networks like StarNet Libraries, through the SciStarter network of public libraries as well. And so one topic of interest to all 3 partners is the urban heat island effect, and I'm going to turn it over to Kevin Sykowski.
Great. Well, with the Globe Observer app allowing us now to have people enter data for air quality, not air quality, for atmosphere, surface temperature, air temperature, and clouds, we're able to do more things now and expand out. So the idea is to have the libraries take observations for the urban heat island campaign, not campaign, but intensive observation period. So I guess that's all, that's, we have a graph here from one of our projects that we have had students do in the past. And, engaging the libraries would be a great opportunity to look at Los Angeles' urban heat island.
Okay, and so the way that we're going to integrate this into library programs, are through library kits. And these are a couple of examples of existing kits that Los Angeles Public Library has developed. And Vivian Bird is in the audience, I believe. She's having some issues with her voice, so she will be interacting in the chat if you have questions. But these are two circulating kits that LA Public Library has developed that the Globe Observer team, worked with them on. The one pictured there at the top is globe clouds, and the one at the bottom is a mosquito habitat mapper. It includes resources from our Globe Observer toolkit for informal educators, and we work together with them to make connections to why this science is relevant for Angelenos. And so the upcoming kit that we're going to be working with them on is an urban heat island kit. And so I wanted to say a few things, make a few notes that Vivian would like to make about these kits. So some of the things that you'll notice, in addition to resources for taking the observations and doing data, collecting data and submitting the data, the kit also includes a suggested STEM activity. And so a hands-on activity to help to reinforce the science concepts that are being studied, as well as to make the science more engaging. They have created a Globe team, an LAPL team, and in the kit, they encourage patrons to join their team. So it makes them a part of their community of citizen scientists. And I also would like to note that the kits are circulated to the public, but they also have an extended checkout for schools. And Los Angeles Public Library has established a program with the LA Unified School District. And one of the school districts is actually going to focus on citizen science. So that's a big advance that LA Public Library has made in making the connection to the library programs to the public schools. These are also have a DEI connection in that they want to make sure that everyone can participate. So even if the patron or students do not have the tools at home, internet connectivity, or smart devices or computing resources, they have reusable data sheets so they can practice collecting data and can also use the library's Wi-Fi and computers to submit data. LA Public Library is also translating the kits into languages that are most relevant to their community. They are in process of translating the existing kits into Spanish and Chinese. And ultimately, they'll also be translating these into Japanese, Persian, Korean, and other languages that are particularly relevant to their community. And the last slide that I'm going to end with is an example of how we made the local connection. So the other thing that Los Angeles Public Library does is they work with local community partners. So for example, with the Los Angeles Vector Control to do programs. So they bring in local subject matter experts. And this piece is a small piece that we crafted with LA Public Library, Rusty Lowe, who is a science lead for the mosquito habitat mapper. And so we wanted to make the science personally relevant. We wanted to make it locally relevant and also to provide what you can do. So we wanted to hit on all those things as key things in terms of communicating about climate change and what will help to motivate observers to get involved, to get the public involved. So I'm not sure, are we at the end of our time? Do we have any time for questions? I'll check the chat. And Vivian, Kevin, if you want to chime in, please do. Yeah, I'm going back to check the chat.
I think Christy asked a question about getting the data uploaded. And I know we've been discussing that. And actually, I mentioned that we were going to use the Globe Observer app, but I'm wondering if Vivian had decided not to for the time being. I can't remember.
Well, so the existing kits, they do have a virtual version of them on the Los Angeles Public Library website. I'll see if I can find that link. But if you Google NAISCI, NEISCI, Los Angeles Public Library, that's the name of their program, Los Angeles Public Library Neighborhood Science Program, will take you to a page where they have virtual online versions of the kits. Because they want to make this accessible for everyone, they will be looking at how we can provide data sheets that patrons and students can take the observations outside of the app, at least to get practice taking the observations and ultimately to get them putting data into the GLOBE database.
Hi, this is Vivian. So,
Vivian, thank you.
sorry. So, just very quickly. So, when we're circulating the kits for the general public, we just include the instructions in there, and also there is a basically refillable laminated data sheet that we encourage people to use them. We do in the instruction, we do refer them to use that if they don't have the digital device. Last time what we did is, for example, with Globe Clouds, we used SciStarter. They actually have an anonymous form, sort of like a platform that we can use it to sort of replicate the actual steps in the Globe Observer on that form. And so people, whoever, if they get to the public library, they have access to the internet, then they can pull that up. They don't have to input any of their personal information. They could just put in the coordinates and all this information. It will be recorded on the SciStarter's anonymous form. If you go to our website, you will see there is, go to under the kits, you will see there is an anonymous form. That's where we're creating these forms for now. I haven't been able to check with SciStarter how the data that's being inputted in there being related back to Globe, but that was how we try to get people to do the paper form first, and then the teacher, especially in LA Unified School District, they have a very strict protocols in terms of going to the website that's not being pre-approved by school. So this actually allows them to input the data without worrying about tap into the red tapes of the city, the school district's protocols or policies related to internet use.
Thank you, Vivian.
Mhm.
And Vivian put the link to their neighborhood science website in the chat.
All right, thank you. And if there aren't any more questions, then we'll go ahead and Lynn, you're up.
Vesna will start the presentation first. There she goes. So we have an Elementary Globe in Action K-5 panel. Vesna is going to be talking about an international component. Mike is going to be talking about pre-service teachers, that component, and then I'm going to be talking about some materials. Next. We know that science learning begins the minute children are born almost, and you can really see it in very young children as they're exploring the world. They have a curiosity and they're always asking questions. Elementary science education is so important. And if they learn to explore and to really feed their curiosity, it really does expand their understanding of the world around them. Go ahead. Next. In the US, with NGSS, students in K-5 are starting with the sciences and tying them together, and the 4 disciplinary core ideas are being developed. They're developing ideas and skills through performance expectations, and instructional decisions should include practices, and that's where oftentimes teachers are trying to get through just reading text. And so Globe is so important in the use of practices as far as performance expectations. All right, Vesna, the international component.
When I became a Globe teacher 5 years ago, there was no Globe program in kindergartens in Croatia. And it was hard to find kindergartens to collaborate with, and it was hard to find some information. There are also many questions about what Globe activities could be done with children so young age. So I did some research and done some Globe activities with children age 4 to 7. Since kindergartens in Croatia are separated from school, and last year I met elementary teacher Ivana Frančić, who is teacher of students 7 to 11. It's a primary school. And we saw that we had the same questions about elementary Globe, and that elementary Globe is not well developed in Croatia. And also the forum on Globe site was silent. So a year ago, we made an international project, the Globe Program Elementary K4. That would give us those answers and connect us to the elementary Globe teacher all around the world. The project that we made is the repository of resources useful for implementation of elementary Globe program. The network of schools and kindergartens that implement elementary Globe activities, and also the help desk for mentoring new Globe teachers by peer mentor personal relationships. Since I got lots of help of experienced Globe teachers from primary and secondary school, that model is applied to our project, and the new unexperienced teachers have somebody to support them in their start with Globe. Currently, 5 teachers got their mentors, and some of them already made joint projects. The project was launched by Amateur Scientists Association, which is also help desk for the Globe program in Croatia. The project is designed by 3 platforms: the web page, the Wakelet platform profile, and the Facebook group. We made two Wakelet profiles. One is for international teachers on English, and the other is for Croatian users. And also we have 2 Facebook groups. One is in English, one is in Croatia. I will walk you now through some pages. On the web page, there's many information about the projects, lots of links. And this is a supporting development team, specialists from different areas using their free time for helping us with the project quality development. And everybody contributed on their own way to project development. So I must thank them all for help and contribution. Thank you all. Now I will show you the international Wakelet profile. The Croatian Wakelet profile is similar with the Croatian resources on Croatian language, but we don't have it there. The Wakelet is useful application because it's like web page, but many contributors can simultaneously edit and the content of the profile page. Wakelet is organized like files and folders in computer. I will show you now, for example, atmosphere. We divided some resources by globe Earth spheres, like on the globe main page. You enter the atmosphere and you can find some resources that could be useful for young children. I don't have time to show you everything. These a list of storybooks, some educational video resources, and some other elementary resources, not just elementary, but what can be useful for this who are starting. Now I will go back to the main regular page. And these are the countries that have joined us, 4 countries for now. Every country that had joined gets its own collection and can edit it on its own. And every Globe school and kindergarten gets also its own collections, and it can all add their own content inside. I will just show you how we deal with Croatia. A little about the educational system, promotional video to know where we are from. And we have kindergartens, elementary school. This is first kindergarten, just to show you how we manage it.
It looks like we're frozen. Okay, it's back.
Okay.
All right, looks like there's a technical. Or was that the end, Vesna?
Can you see my screen?
Now we can see Globe Program Elementary K through 4
Yes,
project
yes.
design.
Okay. Sorry for technical difficulty. So the project is kind of research about how Globe activities could be useful to elementary teachers and children of young age. So we concluded that to maintain the interest of young children in observations and measurements, we have to include lots of follow-up activities related to the STEM, arts, literacy, and even music. That's how we are moving forward to develop a transdisciplinary approach by children doing Globe activities and can be implemented and reach specific curriculums. We also made one letter international Globe competition by Scientific Discovery Campaign. It was a competition organized among 11 others of the STEM Discovery platform. It was about Globe Observer clouds observation and taking artistic photos of interesting clouds. It was organized for children 5 to 11. You can read about it in the Scientific blog, and it was also a kind of promotion of the Globe program on the Scientific portal. The result of the competition is that kindergarten teachers and one primary school in the short time period recently joined the Globe community and also our project. We had 2 weeks just to announce it, and 5 days was going on. The project is 1 year old, and it was already nominated in Croatia for the 2002 Nikola Tesla Annual Award Genius for the Future. So that's how we are helping to build a stronger Globe learning community. We made the project platform that could be a bridge to better collaboration. So we hope that you will join us. Thank you.
All right, so Mike?
So I'm going to focus on how we are using Globe in the K-5 pre-service world. So I think a number of you on the call have heard me talk about this before, but Globe activities, Globe protocols in particular, are at the center of my elementary science methods course. And what we attempt to do here is be able to connect Globe to other sort of national curriculums. And the two curriculums that we focus on nearly exclusively are Project Learning Tree and Project WET. In both of these cases, the activities are very closely aligned to NGSS at the K-5 level and are really great learning activities. But quite honestly, and I'm not being a sniper, I've said it at both of their national conferences, a little light on the science. So what Globe does is Globe is a really nice way to bring that structured experience in science to these really great learning activities. The other piece that we focus on is using Globe and the question formulation technique to help the future teachers look at designing their future instruction around the geo-inquiry model from National Geographic. So the geo-inquiry model, I'm going to do, don't have time to dive into it too deeply here, but it's a really nice scaffold for helping shape experiences in a classroom for really K-16 students, but in our case, K-5 students. And what I try to do is use the question formulation technique as part of the ask phase of the geo-inquiry. So helping them use that technique, that strategy for looking at the natural world around them and starting to ask questions that they can then use Globe protocols in the collect phase to be able to collect the data that helps them start to answer those questions or even start to ask future questions. So then we go on and try to help them take that data that they collected through Globe and start to figure out how they can visualize it, how they can create and communicate that idea with students and with parents, and then finally take action in their community. Christy is on the call here today. Christy has done an incredible job in shaping QFT out so that people can understand deeply. She's built two incredible examples around bundles of Globe protocols that take advantage of the question formulation technique. She's done water coolers and webinars and all that, just an incredible resource for doing this. QFT, I think, has, for my future teachers and when they've gone out into student teaching and use this, has been a great tool for helping shift much more toward what NGSS hopes we're going to do, which is who's having the students do the science versus us sort of standing and delivering that science to them. So that's the question formulation technique. The other piece that we have focused on for the last couple of years, last 15 months or so, has been partnering with Kristen Hunter-Thompson to look at data literacy and how we can take sort of big constructs that she has focused on in her benchmarks for data literacy. How can we build that into pre-service teacher education? So this is a kind of a natural thing for us in Globe. So one of the phases is this idea about getting data. And you'll kind of see the broadly, I didn't get in too far into the the substandards for these, but she's done it by grade band. So there's a K2, a 3.5, 6.8, and then high school bands for each of these big constructs. So the first big construct is getting data. This best plays out for us in Globe through the Globe protocols, through great resources like My NASA Data, where we can start to help them understand the difference between the data that they've collected locally and the data that other people have collected, and but they can take advantage of and use in answering questions. Then what the benchmarks ask them to do is try to explore this data. So at different grade levels, different grade bands, you'll see a shift in how each of these plays out. But how do we create data tables that both that help students shape their thinking around the data they've collected? How do we visualize that data and make sense out of it and find patterns? What I think for us in pre-service teacher education in particular, this was a really nice way of helping them understand not only what we're asking kids to do with data, but what they should be doing with data as a teacher to help communicate that data in a way that helps students understand what we're hoping for. And then finally, the last piece is making meaning of the data. So Kristen's not here to defend herself, but I will sing her praises. This is the piece that I think I have always fallen short of. So I get really excited about him collecting data, finding out a way to be able to visualize that data, graph it, put it in data tables, and then we kind of move on. Kristen in the benchmarks has done a really nice job of shaping how we can have conversations about the data. So, interpreting data, trying to talk about the uncertainty in the data, where we might be able to look at a result that maybe was unanticipated and try to make sense of where that could have come from. And then how does that, looking at that data, how does it shape what our next steps would be? And when you put this all together, I mentioned that she takes those functions, puts them into tasks, and then in the benchmarks, identifies sort of, I guess, best aligned to the evidence statements, maybe that are in the NGSS, how the kinds of tasks that we can ask students in our instruction and build those experiences around. And you can I just tried to give you an example of the difference between what we expect at K2 and then developmentally, how we build on that and go on in the 3 through 5. So, which leads right into Lynn. Lynn's main job was to stop me from talking too much. She did a great job. So.
Mike, if you would like to talk more, you're more than welcome.
No, I love the sound of your voice, Lynn. Very soothing.
Elementary Globe has been something near and dear to my heart, and these storybooks, I know that you are all familiar with them. My point in this part of it is to talk a little bit about some of the materials that have been created, and also we are looking at learning activity submissions that you all have created, and a mechanism by way you could submit it and have it looked at, and then have a portal to hold the materials on the Globe website that are easily accessible. And so I'm just going to go through a series of things that I've done or others have done that I wanted to show you. And so in the storybook, do you know that clouds have names? Oftentimes the younger students, this book may be a little bit more teacher oriented than for K2. And so I developed a lesson so that cirrus, cumulus, and stratus were the three main cloud types that were looked at. stack of cloud pictures. Every child has a picture, and then they do some kinetic energy types of things as the teacher is showing them and talking to them about the book. Here's a poem for those of you who are not too familiar with Celsius. It's a poem that we've used a lot. In fact, in my travels around the world, I use this all the time just to help me know what it's going to be as far as, is it going to be cold? Is it going to be hot? What do I need to wear? Then rain measurements tell a story. This is from UCAR, and it's really a nice story that ties in the idea of how much rain came, and then measuring precipitation and the exploration of rainfall data. The mystery of missing hummingbirds. This is one that I created a data sheet for students so that when the teacher is reading the book, I've also created some flip books for teachers in younger classes. If they don't want to hold the book per se, that they can use a flip book with it. But this is a data sheet for the students to fill out as the story unfolds about the temperatures, both in Pennsylvania and in Costa Rica. And then observing green up, green down. We just heard a lovely learning about protocols, and there's some beautiful videos in the session that we just saw. But I just thought this was a really nice data sheet also for students to use. I did not create this. The credit is at the bottom. And then this is one that NASA has created, and some of you may not know that these are out there. So I did want to point out some things that NASA has done with the Globe Observer, asking, learning, observing, and creating, dealing with seasons and seasonality. And then I created some season image card game ideas, and there's a sorting mat. This would be for younger children, where if you look at that flower, does it fit under living things, under land, under air, or water? And that would be under living things. The puppy with the flowers would also go under living things, but there are a lot of pictures. These could also be literary prompts. And so I have a bunch of ways of using these cards. And so Discoveries at Willow Creek has to do with water. And of course, any of you know me now, I make a song about just about everything. So observation, make an observation. Observation, tell me what you see. And that's a big part of what younger students need to be doing, just to observe around them outside. What do they see? What is it? And so in the Discoveries at Willow Creek, there is a fall field trip where they are recording all kinds of information, but then they go on a spring field trip and they find different things. And so I created a sheet so that they could do a comparison and have it in their journal, and could actually write about the reasons they think these changes occurred. And then this one, I really like this activity. I've added a little bit to it because these critters remind me of something. They're huge. They remind me of something that would be in a science fiction movie. And if you look, they're not all the same size. And so I found pictures of the actual critters, and I have them on this sheet to scale. So using the black and white cards of information, then the students do a macro match where they identify the ones on the left, on the colored pictures. They identify the different macroinvertebrates. They would be measuring, they would be reading the information on these black and white cards, and then they would be finding them. And I have a lesson that deals with all of that. The Scoop on Soils, near and dear to my heart. Once again, I have a song. but I created a journal page for the students to be writing in their own journal. And it looks a little skewed right here. It's really not that small. It's a full page, but they would be writing in the journal as the students in the storybook are going to the 3 different sites: sand, silt, and clay, sand, silt, and clay, and on it goes. I also have in the Globe learning activities, the importance of soil. This one is one that you may be familiar with as far as using an apple, and the students cut the apple, and it's showing the difference between the amount of land, amount of water, amount of soil that's actually used to grow food that we all depend on. And so I have a PowerPoint that goes along with this, but instead of using apples, I use a strip of paper, and it's just a lot more accessible for a lot more people. Instead of buying 30 apples, you just have 30 strips of paper, and it ties in really nicely with the USGS activity. I love this texture by field flow chart. This is one that I'm sure that you are familiar with. And this is so fun. I have used this with 2nd grade up through lifelong learners who are in their 80s. And everyone seems to really enjoy this. And if you haven't done this, I will do a session with you on how fun it is, because I just imagine a little blonde-haired girl with a big bow in her hair. She's a 2nd grader. She has on really cute clothes, and she's doing soils at her table. And she turned to me and she said, "This is so much fun. I just love it." And so that's what you want to inspire with younger students. All about Earth. I have a song, Spectrum of the Sun, the spectrum of the sun, electromagnetic spectrum is the spectrum of the sun. Of course I do. But anyway, the sun is extremely important, as we learn in this book. This is a headband if anybody is interested in it. And one of the things that someone at JPL who was working on the SOHO mission, I said, you know, all the waves are on one side and all the rays are on the other if you put this together and make a headband. And he stopped for a minute and I said, "Is something wrong?" And he said, "No, I just hadn't realized that." So we can all learn at whatever age we are. Then one of the things that a lot of the trainers have used is look at all the different thermometers you could possibly have. Now imagine some of them broken, and some of them you don't have a clue how to read. And so there's an activity called any old thermometer will do. And it's just a collection of thermometers. Everybody gets a thermometer. Everybody goes outside. We're just told to go outside for 2 minutes and take temperature, and then wait 2 minutes and then take the temperature again. No other instructions. And so the idea is a basis for why we use certain equipment in the Globe protocols, because not all thermometers are alike. Some are not easily read, some are broken, some we don't know how to read at all. And so a thermometer should be a pretty easy protocol, but depending upon what instrument we use, it might not record properly at all. So this is something else. What's up in the atmosphere, exploring colors in the skies? I'm in a process right now developing something that will be for younger students to look at pictures of aerosols, so they have more of an idea of what it might look like in the sky in different parts of the world. So if you're interested in it, just let me know. We'll work together on it. But there are several learning activities in this particular storybook that work very well for older children especially. And then what in the world is happening to our climate? I love these. One of the things that you could do is use sticky notes. If you did not have these blocks, you could use sticky notes. And I have suggested starting at the bottom and working up to build the bar graph. So instead of this being day one would start down here and would correlate to what you're doing here. This is day one, day two, day three. These are broken up into how it might feel, how it might look, and actual measurement in temperatures. So if you haven't looked at this particular activity, it's really worthwhile to do. And then making a climograph. Climographs are very important and they're very easy to make. And it's just the bar is precip and the line is the temperature. And so temperature and precip are very important for climate. And this is a lovely activity that you might also enjoy if you're not familiar with it. And then there are older grades that have to do with climograph that are also in the learning activities for older students. But this is one that would be very easily could be young students. So links to resources and materials. We have a page that Vesna created, and these are the main resources, and Vesna's hers should be on here, but she has created a page. And Vesna, if you'll put that link in the chat so everyone
Yes, I already did.
Oh, good. Okay. Thank you very much. And we hope to have you all looking at activities that you might like to share with the Globe community. And we look forward to talking with you more about it. Thank you.
All right, we have a quick break starting now. We'll take about 8 minutes and we'll be back at 11:15 Mountain Time.
Dario, did you get the message that we're going to come back and do the lifelong learners right after the break? Okay.
I wish I knew why it was when one starts to share their screen, how everything else just disappears. Who came up with that idea?
Not alone, Dorian. We hear your message.
Gee, Willikers.
Dorian, if you go up to the taskbar at the top and right click on it where it says view. It should say keep on top.
You know, the funny thing, Lynn, is just, and I'm working around it, but what happens is I no longer have any way to get up on top. I just see all the people along the top.
Okay.
And then my chat disappears. I don't know if it's something to do with a Mac or my Mac, but everything just kind of goes all haywire. And I'm growing used to it, but you know, it's one of those things like, really? Like, you know, what design flaw, you know?
Dorian, that's so frustrating. I'm on a Mac and I'm not seeing any of that, so I don't think it's a Mac issue. I just want to assure you that I don't think it's a Mac, so, but I
Are
am
you
sorry.
sharing the screen now?
Dorian, have you tried hitting escape key? Because I have the same issue all the time. And it's good to see you, but have you tried if you hit escape?
I'm afraid to do anything in all honesty, because I don't want to be knocked off, but it's all good. It's basically because I'm sharing my screen. Otherwise I
Right.
see everything fine.
Yeah, so Dorian, before you don't want to do it now, I understand, but before you share the PowerPoint, you can go into setup show and choose
Okay.
to share it as an individual window so it doesn't take over your screen.
Aha, I will do that next time. Thank you. No worries.
You're welcome. Yeah.
We learn so much at these collaborative meetings, and
Right?
that's why
I
it's
know it.
And
Yeah,
of course,
I
as soon as
know
you get used to one thing, you turn around and you know, technology changes and you have something else. So hey, if we've not learned anything else, it's just go with the flow, find some workarounds, and
Absolutely, yeah. So yeah, so it's under, once you have the PowerPoint open, it's under set up show. And there's
okay.
an option to browse by an individual window. And if you select that and then click OK, then when you play it, it does not fill up your whole screen.
Right.
Love it. Will do. Thanks.
Great to be together.
Indeed, it is. I actually came to a space where I'm not in my own home, but it's a little bay cottage that we have. So that way I'm away. I feel like at least I'm away. Everything's devoted to the Globe meeting, and it's very nice. Almost as good as being together.
That sounds cool.
Great idea, Dorian.
I'm sure others feel the same way. This to me is always like a family reunion. And I was so looking forward to, you know, being together with you family in person. And, you know, so I just feel like if it's, you know, it's one of those really important meetings. And so it was just nice to get a place and come and, you know, bring all my food with me and just be, you know, be available and completely focused, no other distractions. So yeah, you all are very special. You are family. And thank you. I will mention before we get started, I created a one pager, and it is now, this is its debut. So it is in the files. Thank you so much to Grace. She is absolutely amazing. It is in the files for this session. So just be sure when you get a chance, you download it, and that way some of the information that we're presenting, you will have easy access to. And you just let me know when to begin.
Sure. I'll give you the heads up when we hit the
Deal. Namaste. So nice to see people here from all over. Wow.
Go ahead.
Go ahead and start.
Yep.
All righty then. Well, greetings and salutations to everybody. It is so nice to see the family all coming together. You know, as we're talking here about connecting diverse audiences, it hits me how far we've come. When I joined Globe 15, 20 years ago, we were so focused on formal education, and that in and of itself was just a huge nut to crack. And over the past 10 years, it has been simply amazing to be part of this transition where we have imagined and then taken it from imagining to a reality, moving away from just focusing on formal education audiences and finding ways that we can expand and include and invite a lot more people to the table. So what we're going to be talking to you about with this panel is thinking about us old folks. So we were talking just before this about our little people, and I took lots of notes. Lynn's just every time I hear it, it's so exciting. So many fabulous ways to interact with and engage and work with that natural joy that our little people bring to exploring their natural environment. And us older folks, and when we say lifelong learners, we're talking about people aged 55 or over. Sometimes there's a controversy and it gets kind of challenging to try to know how to name this audience, because not all of us are retired. But even whether we're retired or not, we have some similarities, and I'm going to be sharing that with you in a little bit here. Some similarities in the way we view the world and in kind of what our interests and our needs are now that we're inviting so many more groups and audiences to the table. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about that with some fellow members of the Globe Education Work Group. And so let me move on to the next slide, and I'll tell you a little more about that. One of the incredible, benefits of this Globe program is that we do represent people from all over the world. We bring together our experiences, our cultures, our traditions. And that's something I love about being on the Education Work Group. When we meet, we have representatives from each of these different regions. And that is incredibly powerful because it enables us to take something like, how do we work with lifelong learners, people aged 55 and over in our different communities? And having this richness of perspectives got all of us on the work group really excited. So what happened was I just kind of presented it as a little side thing that I was working on for Globe Observer through NESIC. And those of us on the Education Work Group sat around and we thought, we're lifelong learners. I resemble that audience. And then we started getting kind of excited about how might we invite and include this audience, and what are some ways we're already doing that in our different regions of the world. And then most important, we're asking you to help us out. And on that one pager and in my slides, you will see my email as the point of contact. Right now, we are at that point where we're gathering and pulling together ideas. And it's like in the brainstorming part. No idea is a bad idea. And so we invite you to share your understandings, your ideas, your guidance, some examples of where this audience is being involved in your community. And then looking through the lens of Globe and Globe Observer, how might we pull them in to the Globe program so that it's meaningful and that it's sustainable? So, of course, a little bit of background needed to be done initially. You don't just start with something like this and say, I think. So I worked on a literature review, and also we have this wonderful evaluation team from Oregon State University who work with NESIC, and help us to get a feel for, are we on the right track? So they also did a literature review, and that helped us to see what is already out there. What do we already know about how best to engage lifelong learners in citizen science efforts? So we did that, then got a hold of several varied stakeholders, people who are really, really involved in working with members of this audience. One of them was a fabulous, incredible woman, Darlene Chevalier. Hope I said her name correctly. She's a former cheerleader and is now a cheerleader for citizen science. And she runs this fabulous platform called SciStarter. And she has done an awful lot of work with this audience. So I reached out to her and a lot of other people, Kay Ferrari, who works with Solar System Ambassadors, and some others, and had dialogues with them, met with them virtually in person, and then did some emailing to ask them more questions, and got a good sense of what their needs and ideas would be and their sense of best practices. Then, like I say, we talked about it with the Globe Working Group and got a lot of ideas. And of course, all of this is within collaboration, and I report in monthly to the NESIC team to let them know, here's what we're working on, here's some ideas, and this is not something that ever should be done by yourself, because we have such a wonderful big team, and that collaboration, the richness of the collaboration makes a huge difference. What I'm going to present to you now are some of the perspectives, maybe the lens through which to look at interacting with this audience. I have a few slides with that, and then some best practices gleaned from all of that research. Then we're going to hear from a few members of our Globe Education Work Group as to how they have seen adult learners, lifelong learners, working with the Globe program in their different regions. And then we invite you, like I say, to email me or put in the chat ideas you have for how we might get people involved in your regions. So a couple things to think about. The global population is getting older. About 21% of people worldwide are in this lifelong learner category. And something to think about is that this is a large segment then of our voting population. So it's not a group of people whom we should ignore. They have such richness to bring. Not only do they bring richness to us, but also it is incredibly good for their health, for the health of all of us lifelong learners, to be engaged and involved. And much research has proven the benefits of that. A fascinating thing, I think, is that the motivations of this group tend to be more intrinsic. I want to make this world a better place for my grandchildren. I want to be involved in an effort that is going to do good. Whereas sometimes at younger ages, they might be involved in a volunteer activity because it will help their career or look good on their resume. So kind of interesting to note those differences. So, and of course, those are not all the differences. Those are just a few perspectives through which to view this group. So then from there, well, what can we glean and what has been learned by others who have already done efforts involving citizen science with this audience? So there's a number of best practices. One that I think we do a good job of with Globe is we don't need to create the wheel. There are already so many ways in which this community are engaged in other organizations, so we can capitalize on that. For example, I'm teaching a class now for lifelong learners through an existing institute. I looked out, found this institute, saw that they focus on people age 55 and older, and I said, hey, do I have something cool for you? And they said, yes, yes, yes. libraries, all these different ways we can find existing infrastructures and then find ways to align ourselves with that. Another thing is, this is a group of people who aren't as interested in kind of knowing that someday, and not everybody in this group, mind you, but many people in this group are interested in seeing that their efforts are being used, and that it's not just kind of something where they take an observation and maybe they get the satellite match and that's neat. And maybe, sometime in the next 4 years, there's going to be a research paper written. That's interesting, but they kind of would like more of a sense of community, a feeling of belonging, and a feeling that their data are useful in ways that they could kind of get their hand on here and now. Thinking about reaching this diverse audience in a wide variety of different settings means that we need to have a multifaceted approach. And this is one of the areas where it would be so helpful if you know of some existing case studies, some ways in which lifelong learners are being engaged with Globe. Please reach out to me, because often having those examples, what we call case studies, are super helpful. And I'm going to pull them together into a story map that focuses on these lifelong learners. Lifelong learners love to tell their stories. They have had such they've made it to 55 and older, and they have experienced a lot of things, and they like the opportunity to be able to share their experiences. So finding ways that we can highlight some of the neat things that are being done, such as we see, and it could certainly be a part of, Globe Stars. Something we find with lifelong learners is that even though they may or may not be retired, they don't have all the time in the world. So we want to try, when possible, to not have overly complicated protocols, have the web and the app things that they can utilize easily without getting too frustrated, or scaffold, find ways in which we can engage, say, high school students in going to senior citizen living areas and helping them to get started. Some really neat ideas for cross-generational collaboration. But it's going to be super important to continually monitor the needs and interests of this audience to ensure that we scaffold things and develop things which are useful. And the last kind of best practice I want to throw out is, there was a really interesting research paper, which I have hyperlinked in the document that you can get, called Nibble and Drop, that Heather and Matt, the external evaluators, did to help us understand people's motivations for joining and using Globe Observer, and then maybe why they drop off. And one thing they learned, because they did work and figure out this age population, that when people stopped engaging with the Globe Observer app, it was kind of because they felt they were no longer making a meaningful contribution. So now we're going to offer you a few examples of how in some different locations we are engaging and hopefully sustaining our lifelong learners. I will start with an example of 2 classes that I taught. One is through an institute called OSHA. The other is through one called Lifelong Learners. In both cases, these are groups of adults age 55 and over who love to learn. So I fall right into that. I still look at college syllabi and I just drool. I mean, I'm just a nerd like that. Love, love, love to learn. And we have a lot of lifelong learners who are in that same boat. The first course that I did was through the OLLI, they call it, group in Hawaii. This was over 2 years ago. And I did an online course that focused on using the Globe Observer app. We actually had 2 of those people presenting last night for our community event that we had. So many of them are still actively involved and engaged. And I do send them a monthly email as requested by them to kind of keep that momentum and that interest up. We got very positive evaluation, and like I say, continue to make that ongoing. The other one that I just finished teaching was through the Lifelong Learner Institute. In this case, our emphasis wasn't on Globe Observer, it was on climate change, but I made sure I brought Globe Observer into this course as something that they can do to be actively engaged in this data collection. That one was virtual because of the uptick in COVID, but I will be teaching one in the fall that will be in person. And it's my hope that when it's in person, I will have more opportunities to have them use Globe Observer and parts of the Globe program and get a chance to kind of interact with them more to get a feel for how they find these tools and the Globe program something that they could tie into their life. All right, enough of me talking. Let's move on now and hear more of Lynn's lovely, relaxing voice.
You may be familiar with master gardeners. Master naturalist is something that can be found in the United States as well. And master naturalists not only deal with flora, but also atmosphere, hydrosphere, pedosphere, and biosphere. So master naturalists can be found, I think, in every state. We have a master naturalist chapter in Northwest Arkansas that has over 400 members. And so the people who are involved in this range from graduate students at the university to retired scientists, farmers, whatever. And I have been working with them over the past year, little by little, using the Globe Observer. We have something called visits to our backyard where we limit it to 10 people. And our backyard can be wherever we want. Ours in this case was at a park at the University of Arkansas. And we sat around, looked at clouds, and talked about Globe Observer and how to put cloud data in. And so I've also worked with them with soils. And so we've got others in the group who are interested in collecting more data. And I'm going to be looking at grants to get them weather stations so they can actually put them in their yard. The caveat is they must put data in if they're going to get one of these weather stations. So I'm planning on expanding it with others in not only in the state, but just doing more with our group. So master naturalist is different from master gardeners because it actually takes in all 4 spheres that Globe is responsible for. And I love it. I love it. So.
Thank you, Lynn. Excellent example of taking an existing program and then starting to figure out ways to get into the networking and then, again, provide some of these case studies so that when, some of us reach out to our local master naturalist programs and say, hey, did you know? And were you aware? Here are some ways it could be used, to then get them to say, okay, well, we can go ahead and give that a try. So thank you so much. Now we're going to move on to Estonia, and Ule is going to present for us. Thank you so much. I can't hear you yet, Ule. Let's make sure you're, I think you're muted. Let me unmute you. Ask to unmute. Ask to unmute. You need to unmute, Ule, if you can.
Okay.
Marvelous. You're good.
Good. Greetings from Estonia. It's evening already here. And our experience is of a small group of veteran Globe teachers. We have established an NGO and we aim to share our globe experience and to introduce the very good and useful globe observations and measurements to other people. So we had summer camps with students of non-globe schools, with the teachers of other schools, and also with citizen scientists. And our last project was probably a little bit extending the globe observations. So we tried to connect all the globe observations with learning and understanding of green technologies, because the green technologies are very much depending on natural resources, and which we can very nicely observe and understand with globe measurements. So thank you. And it's so nice to see you all.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. And I know that the time zone wise, it's not optimum for many of you, and yet here you are. That's just another more dedication.
It's not too late yet.
Well, let's move on down to South America and hear from another member of our education work group, and that is Dario.
Hello everyone. I'm Dario, like Dorian says. I'm from Uruguay, and a small country here in South America. And I'm going to present our work with butterflies, lifelong learners, and GLOBE, because we are working with a collaborative way. In our scholar, sorry, I'm very nervous. Sorry. in our rural school, we have a project about the relationship between butterflies and atmospheric variables. This project was created in 2020 with our country coordinator, Andrea Ventoso, Marta Kingsland from Argentina, Claudia Caro from Peru, and me. And since that year in our school, we had more than 100 days of data recording variables such as surface and current temperature and cloud cover. This research has already been used in 2 courses in the region and has 2 campaigns of butterfly observations. We work in our school, but what happened when they saw butterflies at home? The kids or the parents or the grandparents, they need to take photos, but didn't record data about atmospheric variables like temperature, cloudiness, and didn't hear referenced the observation site. We had beautiful photos, but we couldn't know what variables allow the presence of the butterflies in their homes. This data for us is very important for our research. This year, my students and I decide to have new allies, and when they see butterflies in the yards, they need to work together, where the grandparents and the children had to present our project to the grandparents. They had to talk to them about the importance of butterflies, and they had to teach them to use the app. And what should they do when they saw butterflies? It's something like that. They will record it by taking a picture of it, but they will also record where they saw it, make a cloud cover observation, and if it's possible, take the temperature of the site. And this is our project to work with lifelong learners. Thank you for giving me that opportunity to share with you.
What another great example, Dario. Thank you. you know, there's so many times when us grandparents start to, you know, be invited to potentially work with our grandchildren's schools, or perhaps with their, you know, their scout teams or after school activities that they're doing. And it's been really nice to see some of these different ways in which grandparents are already doing this. And now through the lens of learning about some of those different tools that were shared earlier, it's given me some ideas for going into my granddaughter, she's now starting kindergarten, into her school and getting them going with some elementary globe. And I think this is a brilliant you know, example of how that's being done in Uruguay. So thank you so much. Now, not to be left out, we also have Nahid, if she is with us today, from Jordan. And if she is not able to join us, I will certainly share her information. Did the teacher wait time? I will start, and if she shows up, then I will stop. But with the lifelong learner efforts that Nahid has seen done in Jordan, members of the Climate Change Society in Jordan were introduced to using the Globe Observer and the Globe program. And here we see someone named Mary, who's very enthusiastic as she's over here taking her cloud cover readings and seeing that data. So sure, it seems like a small thing, but if we can get people to download and understand how to do this and the excitement of taking this data, then we've come a long way in at least getting started, getting their foot in the door, inviting them. And our next step is going to be, how do we sustain and keep this audience with us? So thank you so much for joining us today. Like I say, certainly feel free to unmute and share any ideas that come up based on how much time we have remaining. And also please reach out to me. No idea is a bad idea. Like I say, we're brainstorming, and any networks you might think of. I saw some things in the chat, people whom I might reach out to and see if they're interested. Examples of lifelong learners already engaged in Globe. All of this would be hugely helpful as we move forward.
Thank you. And please put any questions you have in the chat now. And then up next, we have our panel Connecting Globe with NASA Scientists for SNOWX Internship. And we're gonna have to do the swap displays again. At the very top left. Perfect. But there we go. We can see you now.
All right, do you want us to go ahead and get started?
Sure.
All right, hello everyone, and thank you for attending our panel. My name is Kayla Bannister, and I am a natural resources undergraduate student at the University of Alaska Fairbanks. I have also been selected for an amazing opportunity to be a NASA SNOWX Mainsy intern. My mentors and I will outline our perspectives and our connected contribution to the Globe program. Christina Buffington is my mentor through the University of Alaska Fairbanks. She is part of the International Arctic Research Center, IARC, as a science education specialist. Through her leadership, she initially introduced me to the Globe program, which I have continued to use Globe for different projects and research since. Christy's proficiency and dedication to mentoring students and research, students and others, is a key component in connecting Globe to extended parts of the science community. Dr. Carrie Voyevich is a NASA research scientist at the Goddard Space Flight Center, working with NASA's SNOWX campaign. She is also my mentor from NASA for my internship and has provided a wealth of knowledge and expertise regarding snow research and insight towards developing further guidance toward my projects. Next slide. Some of my personal goals for my internship sessions have been to investigate different aspects connected to the SNOX campaign. I've been fortunate to be able to do field work, lab work, investigate scholarly articles associated with air quality and snow research, and eventually I will be mapping out different air quality stations in conjunction with snow depth data, all of which have been connected to using the Globe Observer applications as well. As a NASA Mainsy intern, Globe has become a large part of many projects. Recorded observations through the Globe application has allowed for a tracking system for atmospheric observations. The ease of use for this program has made data collection and documentation more accessible, as well as further developing understanding and awareness of different environmental observations. Through the app itself, I'm able to better recognize changes or explanations into why and how some environmental processes occur. Globe has also contributed toward groundwork data. For my spring internship session, Globe was used to evaluate snow water equivalent protocols. Through research, Globe snow water equivalent protocols were compared with the Adirondack snow tube, which is used for data collection to determine snow water equivalent. Part of my research was to determine functionality, ease of use, and understanding in snow water equivalent outcomes. Because of this, the Globe snow water equivalent practices have been further recognized as a tool that is useful due to its simplicity while achieving comparable results. The purple air sensor is a real-time air quality sensor that has been used for both my spring and summer internship projects. It was funded by NASA's Science Activation Program, or SciAct, for both projects. The sensor has connected the community, researchers, and additional sources that are linked to further air quality data collection and evaluation. Next slide. Here are some photos using Globe in some of my projects and research. On the left, you'll see it's a screenshot of the Globe Observer cloud observations that I used for my spring internship. You'll see that it shows all 4 cardinal directions, including up and down. To the top right, or the top portion here, you'll see the Globe protocol to measure snow water equivalent using a snow tube. And to the right of that is a photo of the snow water protocol after the snow was melted and the data was recorded. Next to that is a photo of the snowboard, which, when not collecting total snowfall, I use a snowboard to just collect new snow from the snowboard. And then right next to that, the top right, you'll see a photo of me actually collecting the new snow data using the snow tube and the snowboard. And below, you'll see the purple air sensor that I use for my spring and summer internship. And in the center bottom photo is a photo of where the purple air sensor is installed, which is at the North Campus ski hut at the University of Alaska Fairbanks. And all the way, the bottom right is the location of my sampling site, which the star indicates the sampling site and the green arrow indicates where the purple air is installed at the North Campus ski hut. And next will be Christy Buffington. Next slide.
Thank you so much, Kayla. I'm honored to be one of your mentors, and I am having so much fun working with you as a colleague. And I want all this, we have amazing people in the audience, and I ask people from wherever you join, whether it's Estonia, Guatemala, Nepal, Brazil, Malta, Madagascar, Uruguay, people across the United States, think about why you're here, how you got this timeline to be here, and what decisions you made to engage in Globe and engage people from kindergarten all the way to older people in Globe. So I shared the timeline that Kayla and I have, and we all made decisions to be here today. And we also made decisions to love Globe and be part of this Globe community. So first off, the number one on the left, Kayla did a Globe investigation last fall in my class, which was Introduction to Watershed Management. Now, I was on the fence about requiring a Globe investigation for my students. My mentor, Dr. Elena Sparrow at the University of Alaska Fairbanks, encouraged me to go ahead and have it be a required component in my course. And because of that, Kayla was able to, on the top left, you see some ice she participated in the Fresh Eyes on Ice project, which is a NASA citizen science project using the Globe Observer land cover app to monitor how ice is changing in urban and rural locations. And not only was it her first investigation where she came up with the research question and she came up with the methods, then she also did number two, her first ever scientific poster. And that opened up doors for her, and it opened up doors for me to invite NASA Mainsy to attend my student presentations. So now the students are not just presenting to each other and to me, their instructor, they're now presenting to NASA scientists. And our co-author, Dr. Carrie Voyevich, is a NASA subject matter expert. What a gift. And Bonnie Murray presented to start our session off on connecting subject matter experts in the Meet the Scientist sessions. And so this was like that. This grew from that. So those two decisions were on my end. And then Kayla took off. In number three, you see her doing her, collecting her data outside the campus on the University of Alaska Fairbanks Tratyeta campus. And she made the decision to continue using Globe in her NASA Mainsy internships. She looked at the solid precipitation, the temperature protocols. She also used Globe Observer app for the clouds. And then she even connected with other Globe projects across the United States to study air quality. And now number four, here she is today at our conference, presenting her work, disseminating what she is finding through Globe. She also presented at the International Virtual Science Symposium. And, you know, it's opened up doors, and it continues to do so for all of us. And how do we get there? It's a lot of work for all of us to continue to mentor people from kindergarten all the way through retired or through grandparents. So what does it look like, the structure that we need to create to mentor each other and support each other? Well, on the left, we have the NASA SNOWX team, Dr. Carrie Voyevich as her NASA SNOWX mentor. And with NASA, we have Dr. Alicia Joseph, Bonnie Murray, Caroline Montgomery, and an entire team lifting them up. And then on the right, I'm one small part. I might be her adjunct faculty mentor, but lifting me up is the Globe program, the Arctic and Earth STEM Integrating Globe and NASA project, the University of Alaska Fairbanks, my colleagues at International Arctic Research Center, and I added Globe Mission Earth, who sent Kayla her purple air sensor and is connecting us across the United States. So what does it look like when we make the commitment to do this shared process of mentoring and making each other our colleagues? Well, it takes time, and we can make the time to mentor. This is a pie chart. It's a conceptual drawing or, representation of time. On this circle on the left, we have a lot more time goes into the process than actually goes into the data analysis, the literature review, and then the disseminating, the sharing the science. It took time. It took several weeks to get the university to approve Kayla to put the purple air sensor on the ski hut, for example. And it took time for her to come up with her own research questions. It takes time even this week to get her computer working. So those are all part of the process that we need to be patient with and remember are important steps in our learning together. Then it took time for her to collect data. She's got some tidbits on whether it's faster or slower to collect snow in Alaska, which can be a meter or more deep, using the GLOBE SWE tube or snow water equivalent tube, or a hydrologic method. It also takes time for her to learn about light absorbing particles. She collected snow and filtered snow on quartz filters. And then now she's in this amazing stage of reviewing other information, doing a literature review. We worked together to write the abstract. Kayla took the lead on it, and she is the lead author on this GLOBE presentation with an international audience. And so GLOBE opens doors, and we got to make the time to open them for each other. And now I turn it over to Carrie Voyevich.
All right, thanks, Christy. So I'm going to give just a brief overview of the NASA SNOWX program and a few thoughts from the SNOWX perspective. For those who aren't familiar with it, SNOWX is a NASA-sponsored field and airborne campaign, really aimed or designed to test different remote sensing capabilities in different regions and environments to understand which techniques work and don't, how well we can measure snow depth, snow water equivalent, and snow albedo around the world. And all of this is really geared towards understanding what type of satellite we could put in space in order to monitor global snow. SNOWX has included multiple years of field campaigns. Most of them to date have been focused in the Western United States, where we've flown different airborne instruments over different regions and had people on the ground collecting measurements to help validate the airborne instruments. But right now we're working on designing a campaign in Alaska, in the Fairbanks region, right where Kayla and Christy are, to look specifically at the boreal forest and tundra regions and how well our techniques work up there. Next slide. So what we have done during these campaigns is collect a lot of data. And about 3 or 4 years ago, the Mainsey group, we kind of connected and talked about developing internships. And this has been a really wonderful partnership because on the SNOWX side, we have a lot of data that needs people to start looking at. We need help kind of just quality checking it and getting it ready for other people to use. And on the student side, it provides opportunities for students to get involved in the science, to learn some analysis tools and software tools, how they can look at this data and analyze it, provide some results, and present it in different locations. But one thing that has been really great about this partnership is tying the needs together. On the student side, really trying to understand where the student interests are, what the conditions are in their local neighborhood, community, what exactly they would like to look at and how it ties in with SNOWX. And so we've had a number of examples, 5 internships to date, where we've kind of found a good fit between the SNOWX data and the students' interests. In the bottom one, the last one there, the light absorbing particles in snow in Alaska, is Kayla's project that she really designed, led the whole formulation on, and reached out to people from all over the place, including Globe, to help provide different instrumentation and make her project work. And it's been wonderful. I mean, it ties in directly to one of the objectives of our Alaska campaign, which is to look at albedo and light absorbing particles in the boreal forest region. And so it's been a real win for SNOX. For me personally, this is my first time interacting with Globe and hearing more about what Globe does, and just the huge reach that it has in all over the world, and with people and folks that are collecting observations. So I feel like it's a huge opportunity for the SNO community to learn more about, and it's been really exciting for me. I'll turn it back over to Kayla.
Moving forward, Globe will likely always be part of my future natural resources career and further research, not only to communicate and track my data, but as a way to connect dots to explaining the past and future of science, and to share data with the Globe community and local community. Additionally, this is an extended tool for my toolbox and can be shared and collaborated with those interested in further tracking, storing, and understanding the global environment. Next slide. And here's our contact information if you have any questions. And also you'll see that there's a few websites that describes the MAINZ mission, Arctic Earth and Science, and the SNOX campaign if you're interested in looking into that some more. And thank you for attending.
Thank you. And our evening session later, I'll post in the chat here. That'll be later tonight. If you have any questions, please throw them in the chat now.
Yeah, we welcome questions. It looks like we did a 19-minute presentation. We hope we can stay for 5 minutes for questions if possible.
Of course, of course.
And I agree with Allison. Great talk, Kayla. Fantastic job.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate that.
I actually have a question for Kayla. What do you think was the turning point, perhaps, in getting you interested in science in the first place, or the environment, or, you know, and that kind of led you on the pathway to Globe?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've always been interested in science. I actually was in the military for a very long time, and just, you know, something just wasn't right. I guess I felt like I needed to do more to help out with the environment, and especially with all the changes that are happening. I feel like just doing more research can really, you know, especially with Globe and NASA now too, I can record that data and it'll be used for later, or, you know, for the future, to look into what's going on. So just being part of that, I guess, helping the changes and helping other people learn has been my motivation. And especially with the community too, you know, working with air quality is very new to me. And I think it can be very helpful for the community because, you know, we don't have the best air quality here, and they're always looking for ways to improve it. So just being part of that and having those, you know, being able to actually do the research and like being able to explain it myself rather than, I guess, go and find it, has been a motivating factor as well.
Great, thank you.
Thanks for your question.
Thanks, Roller, for letting us have a few minutes for questions.
Sure, and our next up is our keynote presentation.
Hello.
I'll post that here. You can find that in your agenda.
Yeah. I'm from Nepal, right? It has 8 highest mountains in the world, and the snow is the source of water. Nepal is taken as the second largest water resource country, but snow is only the one that provides water resource over here. So how could this cap of the world, the Mount Everest, and these 8 mountains could be saved for the water to supply the living beings? Snow has been the subject matter for the study over here, and snow is the life for the country like Nepal. So without snow, it has been between the 2 largest growing countries, industrially growing countries, and the temperature is increasing over here. So how could this be prolonged among the young generation? The knowledge could be imparted in the young generation. If I could get such clues, then I could be working out with the young people over here in the school.
I'll just answer. I think that's a really great question. I mean, that's such an important area of the world for snow, for water supply. I completely agree with you. I don't know that we can stop the change in what's happening to the snow, but we definitely need to monitor it more, take more data just to understand what's happening better. And then we would have more information. So I see, to me, it seems like Globe is a great program in that respect, where if you could get young people engaged in collecting those observations, we could use that in models and help understand the remote sensing data sets and really understand what's going on better.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thanks everyone. Roller, let us know if that wraps up our presentation. And I also want to thank everyone on the session. I learned so much from everybody, and I actually have been singing elementary songs in my head now. So thank you for that. And I'll be singing all day long, I think.
It's a good thing. All right, thank you, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thank you so much. Christy, I'm still remembering it was going to be Arctic and Earth Sings, right?
That would have been great. And I waving, Dario, look at all your students waving at us.
Oh, look at them. Yeah. Oh, Mary, it's so good to see you here.
So great to see everyone. Thanks for staying on the whole time. This was wonderful.
It was.
Yep, thanks everyone. See you at the
Karen,
keynote.
Great to have you here as well. And great job, Kayla. Great job, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you. Great presentation.
Hello, Dario students.
Hello, Dario students. Wow.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 Bye.